Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, welcome to another episode of the Four Corners Commentary. I am your mediator for this episode, Kyle.
I'm Christian.
You already know it's Brandon.
As always.
So, today's episode is, I don't necessarily want to call it controversial. We understand that we are still a up and coming and new podcast that wants to promote fun and just promote fun and sorry, that beep just messed me up. But we are a podcast who wants to promote fun and promote unity, but there's just way too much going on in the world right now for us to have this platform and be silent. I'm going to say first and foremost, we don't mean to offend anyone. These are only our views, our individual views on said situations. Now, I will say this right now. We will post a video. We will post the sound, just the sound. If you don't have any constructive criticism, or if you just want to tear us or anyone we care about or our team or group or page or whatever the case may be down, we will basically excommunicado, whatever you. Once again, this is just our views and how we feel about everything happening in the world. So today's episode is basically about the racism and the protests and the police brutality and things of that nature. It's been going on for far too long, as we all know. But I am going to give the floor to Brandon. Brandon, why don't you start off this conversation?
Got you. Just with everything going on in the past, I would say 2-3 months, we have seen such a shift going on with, like, racism has never went away. It's always been here. I think with this current regime, current administration, the hood of racism just came off. Like before, racism was just covert, but now with everything going on, it's become completely overt. And now I would say, because of the recent findings of the George Floyd situation, rest in peace to George Floyd, I think that's what caused such a spark from what we saw. From us seeing a man getting his life taken away by a police officer with a knee on his neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, that caused such outrage. The last time we were this outraged, we saw what happened with Eric Garner. We saw what happened with Trayvon Martin. We saw what happened with Mike Brown. This time, I think it was just to the point where people have just had enough. Us as Black people, as Black people, as others who are people of color, other minorities, they've seen it. That they see it for us, especially as Black people. We've just had enough. So that just caused a major shift in the paradigm. As you see, there's been so many, uprisings, so many protests, so many marches, so many riots. They want to say riots and looting, but I think that's all part of the revolution. That has to be, because when it comes to, if you're trying to fight for your freedom or fight for, trying to fight for your freedom, you're trying to fight for just a spot of being seen and being respected. These type of uprisings have always been violent. So it's just it's almost like you're thinking history is just repeating itself. And we're seeing so many protests, we're seeing so many uprisings, and now it's causing us to sit down and have conversations. And other people who are seeing us have these conversations, they're hearing our cries, a lot of people that we know, a lot of people that are watching, they're getting uncomfortable. It's now pushing them to have this uncomfortable conversation, and it's just long overdue.
Excuse me. Right. Christian, please.
I agree. And I just want to add on to the point that, with that uncomfortableness comes, I think, with any type of education, because I think that's what the key to all of this is. And the key to enact any type of change is going to come through the lens of education, in my personal opinion. I think that with learning about something that is different than you, there is some type of uncomfortableness. And I don't think people should shy away from that uncomfortableness. You know, what Black Lives Matter means is I am telling you, as a person of color, specifically a Black person, that my life matters also. I'm not saying my life matters more than yours or anyone else's. I have a voice and I want to be heard. There's a lot of problems outside of police brutality, which this is readily associated with. There's systemic racism all around us when it comes to medical infrastructure, education, business and commerce, et cetera, that needs to be addressed. And I feel like this is perhaps a smaller step to a much larger problem. I hope that will be fixed in my lifetime, if not for my lifetime, but for the next. I wish to see a world where, systemic racism and implicit bias doesn't have to affect many of the decision making and opportunities that I have available for myself as a Black person, or anybody else that's a person of color or a minority.
Troy, please.
As far as everything that's going on, I do believe it has gotten out of hand. I do feel that because of what's going on around us in terms of, coronavirus that came and hit us like a wave. We didn't know what we were expecting. People are home. People are watching the news more. People are, home with their families. They're, basically worried about their safety. People are already, traumatized from having to walk out their door, have to wear masks, have to not go to work, have to worry about, who has this virus, who has this, who has that. And then now, boom, you hear a Black person shot. Boom, you hear George Floyd situation, being brutally killed, senselessly killed by a cop for no apparent reason. So all of the, being caged at home, also just being a person of color, in this type of situation, you're seeing what's going on, with the government. You're seeing what's going on with, just individually in our neighborhoods. Everybody comes from different walks of life, but you see in our neighborhoods, things aren't improving. So when you have a time like this where everything is internalized, everything is being bottled in, and you have something of this magnitude that happens, it's going to be this type of reaction. I think what made it stronger is because even though things have happened before and we protest, I feel the fact that we have internalized all this pain for so long that we finally got to a point that this George Floyd situation just boiled over to a point that it could not be kept quiet. People are out protesting now. People are out, getting riots are happening. It's not by the protesters, obviously we see that, but riots are happening and looting is happening and all of these crazy things are happening. But the result is we are finally getting that police reform. We are finally getting that solution that we've all been looking for since the days that Martin Luther King was marching. Since even the emancipation with Juneteenth and stuff like that. These things are finally coming to fruition. I am just very sorry that it took so long to get to this point, and it took so many Black people dying to get to this point, and still dying for that matter. But it's a very touchy subject. It's a very strong subject, and I feel people need to be aware of what's going on.
Yeah. Before I make my statement, I just wanna give the listeners and the viewers, I just wanna let y'all know, this is just our overall view of it right now. After I make my statement, I would like to know our personal experiences, or just like how deep these cuts really are for us. Um, my I mean, everything we said is pretty. Everything you guys said is pretty much, kind of how I feel. Uh, as an overall look, when it comes to, everything happening. Um, I will say that. Sorry, folks, you have to excuse me. I will say that, it is absolutely disastrous. It's upsetting. It's painful to see, the things that are happening. Um, Now, my personal view, well, I'll say that one. Excuse me. Well, I will say this. I'm sorry. I'll put it this way. Uh, it is as much as hurt as everyone, as a lot of people, excuse me, feel. Um, what brings some joy to my heart out of this is that it's not just, people in Mississippi. It's not just people in New York. It's not just people in, Texas, California, Seattle, Alaska, Canada. This is affecting the entire planet. Um, Kind of, and I don't know if the mix between the coronavirus and the effect of just being tired of watching people who look like us um, be killed senselessly. Um, that there are in my lifetime, I would like to say that there are very few things that bring the whole world together, and 9/11 was one of them. The LA riots might have been another. Um, hell, even Obama becoming president, that really, struck a chord with the world. Excuse me, but there's something about this that's just different. Um, they're putting a Black Lives Matter on major, on some of the most major streets in cities, and that's wonderful. Don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking it. That's amazing, but I need to reiterate that just because things might have, quote unquote, calmed down, just because the protests and the rioting might have calmed down, this is not over. Um, Change has to continue, and I am one that's typically afraid of change. I'm one of those people. I'm not ashamed to say it. I'm not afraid to say it. But change has to continue. Um, I would also like to say there are not all cops are not bad. Just like all black people are not bad, all white people are not bad. Any Nobody is. There is nothing or no one that is all evil. Not living, at least, not that we know of. Uh, but you know, um, I think the moves to for police reform, um, them looking into the psychology of people, looking deeper into it, I should say, is really important. Is very important because it really only takes a bad day. The Joker said that, and that is so true. Um, it really only takes one day to break somebody, and sometimes it's even shorter than that, much shorter. I'll leave it at this: 3 seconds is a long time. A lot of things can happen in 3 seconds. You fight. If you're in a fight, I mean, you're not going to count while you're fighting. But if you watch a boxing match, if you watch some, UFC, count count 10 seconds and see how long that is. And a lot of things can happen in 10 seconds. And that cop put his knee on George Floyd for over 8 minutes. He was treated less than an animal. Breonna Taylor, they kicked the door in. They shot her while she was sleeping. Thankfully, states are making moves to change, some of the laws or enforce new laws, and I'm thankful for that. Especially, our home, New York, where there are so many people living in such a small, New York City to be specific, but there are so many people in such a small city. The 5 boroughs are not that big. And, like I said, to see things starting, to change for the better is wonderful, but it has to keep going. The training has to change. There are just a lot of things that need to change. Excuse me if I'm rambling. But there's a lot more that needs to happen and a lot more awareness, and that's for everybody. That's for people of color. That's for white people. That's police. Everybody. There has to be some type of learning curve. A lot of people don't know about their own history, and I think that means something. Because let's be honest, slavery was only abolished, what, 60, 70 years ago? Like it wasn't that long ago. That's our grandparents.
Segregation.
So yeah, excuse me. I'm sorry. You're right. I'm sorry. Yeah, but it's a lot. There's just a lot. Um, Troy, have you uh have you ever had to deal with anything of the sort, or just your personal, feelings about all of it? Like, you know, at least when it comes to you. Excuse me.
Uh, I can't say I can't say I've been in very crucial or brutal situations, but just being in school and people's like, oh my God, you're so dark, you're ugly because you're dark. You walk the streets. I could give you an example. I was swiping my card maybe a few years ago. I swiped my card and there were cops in the station, in the Saratoga Avenue train station. So I'm swiping my card just to go through, and they stop me.
Troy,
They're like, "Where are
one,
you going?" Hmm?
Troy, one sec. Folks who don't live in New York, he's talking about the trains. He's talking about the MTA, the Metro. Excuse me, the public transportation system. I just wanted to get that out there. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry. So Saratoga Avenue is a stop on the 3 train. So I'm walking. I'm just basically swiping my card, and I'm going, you know, about my business, and I get stopped, and they're like, "Where are you going? Did you just swipe? Show us your ID." I'm like, "What are you talking about? You literally just seen me swipe my card. Why are you stopping me? Is it because I'm dark skinned?" So I showed them my card. I showed them my ID and I showed them my card, and they just let me go. So I'm like, what was that about? There was another time that I'm walking, I'm going to college, mind you, and I'm walking past the high school, and instead of them just leaving me alone and seeing where I'm going, I'm passing the high school, and they're like, "Yo, kid, where are you going? Aren't you supposed to be in school? And I'm like, I'm walking to the train as I normally do all the time. So once again, that's another, sugar ID situation. They see my age, they let me go. But I I I look at it very, very weirdly because I'm wondering, well, are other kids going through this? If I wasn't as dark as I was, would I even be questioned about swiping my card? Would I even be questioned about, why I'm not in school, why I'm not doing this? There should be no reason to stalk me because of my skin tone. There should be no reason to stalk me because of how my face is. You don't know where I come from. You don't know what my background is, where I live, what I've been through. If you ask me a question, I'll answer your question, but don't judge me based off the look of my face or the darkness of my skin. That's very puzzling and very troubling to me. And even something as small as that is something that, being as a person of color and a black man at that, it's a very scary feeling because you don't know who's going to stop you at what point, what they're going to say, you did, or, they're going to ask you a whole 20 questions. You don't know if you're going to survive the night. I have very old parents at home that I take care of. I'm here. I make sure if I'm going to work, I go to work, I come back. I have to make sure they're good. I have to make sure my family's good. So imagine a night I'm stuck in jail or I got arrested and beat up and nobody knows where I'm at. You got to realize that people of color, and I say people of color, just for everybody that's viewing, but as a black man, you have to realize that just like anybody else, we have homes to come to. We are all human. We have homes to come to. We have people that we do take care of, even if it's just ourselves. But we have our safe spaces that we have to come back to. Not everybody's out there doing bad things. And even if somebody's out there doing a bad thing, it's not for you to judge them because you don't know why they're doing that bad thing. So I always think people should think before they react and get to know somebody. Even if you take 2 minutes to ask somebody a question, you know, trickle back and realize that, you're coming aggressive to somebody. Realize that this is a regular human being. This is not the scum of the earth. This is not that piece of paper that you see floating across the street, whether it's Times Square or wherever the hell it is. You have to realize that everybody is a human being. Everybody has a life. Everybody has a heart. Everybody has a brain. Everybody has organs that function inside of them. And everybody also has feelings. So everybody should be equal. Unfortunately, that's just not how the world works.
For myself personally, um, I'm lucky to say that I haven't had any majorly physical altercations with police because, much like Troy said, that's always in the back of your mind as a person of color. We have the unfortunate burden because a lot of this country is and still runs off of implicit bias because of race. A lot of this country was founded off of a lot of implicit bias. That race affects us wherever we go in any type of interaction, regardless of who it is, even within our own communities. With that said, um, I just want to make it clear to the viewers that are listening, a lot of what Troy said, in some cases, if that has never happened to you as a non-person of color, that may seem absurd that, he feels this way simply because he was stopped by the police and asked to produce his ID. For us, that's a huge undertaking because we know that can lead elsewhere. Some small situations that you guys take for granted. When I say you guys, I do mean non-people of color, and I don't mean to be disrespectful when I say that. Um, Situations like that can seem so small and minute because of the non-factor of race for you guys. You don't have to think about that actively wherever you go. That's a form of privilege. You don't have to think about how your race will affect you if you walk past a police officer because you fit a description, quote unquote. You won't have to wonder how your race is going to affect you on a job interview, for example. But explanation aside, I want to come at this with a more educationary lens. That's why I said that. But explanation aside, for my own personal dealing with police, I was stopped while I was going to class one day, while I was in college. Those are fireworks, by the way, folks. Don't feel alarmed. Juneteenth. With that said, going to class one day, my undergrad alma mater is St. Joseph's College, which is a small, predominantly white college in the Clinton Hill section of Brooklyn, New York. With that said, I was going to class one day, and there's a little tiny corridor that leads from one of the main halls of the campus in the college to where I was going for my next class to another hall. And it's a small, tiny little corridor, like a little alleyway, if you will, that all the students pass to get to this particular hall. And I'll never forget it, because I, being one of the few people of color that went to that school, was walking through that corridor after some students, white students, and all of these students pass. Nobody bothers them. Cop doesn't say a word to them, lets them go to school. Me, on the other hand, I walk past that same corridor a little bit after that group, and the cop stops me, and he starts questioning me. What are you doing here? Like, what's your name? Where are you from? Like, da da da. So I show him my ID, my school ID, and one of those students that I mentioned earlier was one of my friends, saw the cop stop me and asked what was going on, on my behalf, whatever have you. Not that they had to, but felt the need to stop with the cop, like, hey, he goes to this school. I showed him my ID, like, I'm going to class, dude. Like, you're gonna make me late. And it's like, oh, no worries. I just wanted to make sure. I was like, I asked him, like, blatantly, which could have led to something else if I wasn't careful. But being young, you don't necessarily think of those things. And I asked him, I was like, why didn't you stop anyone else? I'd like to know. You just saw 15 other children here that didn't look like me, and you didn't think about stopping not one of them, but you chose to stop me. I to this day, I really want to know why he chose to stop me. I'm a young, like a 20-year-old kid, walking his way to class or whatever have you, and he chose to stop me for whatever reasons he had. I don't even think he explained, like, oh, I'm looking for someone that fits your description. I never got the whole fits your description excuse. Like, I didn't. I to this day, I really want to know why he stopped me. And it hurts, because that's like the difference is obvious. It's glaringly different. I'm much larger than most people. I'm obviously much darker than the average human being, I would say, even in my own community. I went through a lot of the same things that Troy went through because I'm a dark-skinned African American. Colorism in our community is a real thing as well. But be that as it may, to stay on topic, a lot of the things that we describe ourselves with as people of color, unfortunately, sometimes raise red flags because of that implicit bias. Take it from me, I've seen, like, I've ridden on trains in New York City and stood next to people who happen to be white, and women at that. And I've seen them clutch their purses when I stand next to them. Granted, it's New York City, I understand people don't feel safe on public transportation, I get it, but I've seen it happen. I was once dressed in a suit with my MSG ID shit around my neck. I used to work for MSG, around my neck and everything, and has my name, title, and everything where I work. And still, this person felt threatened, even when they had information about me, readily accessible, like if case something happened. Still, this person felt threatened by me, a young African-American male in a suit, as if I was going to hurt them. When I'm not even thinking, I'm just trying to get going about my day like everyone else, It's like those implicit biases really weigh, it causes such a burden that people don't understand. Like you can't really explain it. You can't really experience it. All you can do is just hear me and try to understand it. That's it.
Just from listening to what Troy has said, to even what Christian has said, I have to say, while yeah, it's true, I can't say it. I don't have the kind of joyous story as everybody else has. I have had my run-ins with the police, unfortunately, where it's either gotten verbal, mental or physical against me. I guess I could just recently talk about like, a verbal standard I had with the NYPD lately. Actually, it was a couple weeks back. I was while these protests were heightened. Like this is actually a story that you guys don't even know, so I'm telling you guys right now, as is. I was on my way to work. They, even though we've been out of work for so long because of COVID, they decided to call me in. They decided to call me in to like, I guess, watch the building while the protests were going on, because they're afraid that the protesters are going to like break in. For those that don't know, I work at the other venue opposite of where Christian used to work with MSG. I work with their enemy team. So I'll just leave it at that. And it was weird because when I got there, you would have been so shocked to see like the building itself. Everybody knows, if you know in Brooklyn, you already know the biggest building in Brooklyn. It's the Barclays Center. It went to start looking like Fort Knox because it's like nothing but police are all over. I'm guessing from the first time these protests was first going on, and I guess the precinct, they felt overrun. They had decided to call backup from all different sectors from all over the borough. So it literally was like, it was just a building the building itself was just basically ran by cops, was taken over by cops. And it got to the point for me as a worker, like I couldn't even be allowed inside the building. They didn't want to allow me in, and they would hit me with gaslighting comments. They would ask me, I would show them my ID, like let them know, have my ID around the neck, show them my ID, when they have like almost the whole perimeter of the blocks barricaded off. And they're just like, what are you doing here? What is that? And I'm just like, and I tell them, I'd be like, it's my work ID. I work here. Like, I'm just here to go to work. I don't know anything that y'all going through. I'm just here to do my job and go home. I remember one question, it was one time a cop had asked me, okay, I'll let you through, but you got to answer one question for me. Are you with us or against us? Now, from hearing that the first time, I was taken aback because I said, why would you ask me that? I was like, what do you mean, am I with you or against you? I'm gonna ask it again. Are you with us or against us? Normally, if it was me, for me, I would tell them hell no. But because I would say I'm not with y'all, I'm never going to be with y'all. But because I don't know because of how everything is heightened in the situation, I don't know what can happen. So I just went and I gave the politically correct answer. I said, I'm not going to answer that question. I just said, I'm not going to answer that question. I'm not giving a wrong or a right answer for that one. He let it by, he let me through. And it just kept plaguing my mind how everything. And then as I'm watching, patrolling the building, I'm watching, and I guess, they're doing their own perimeters around the whole entire building. I went and saw with my own two eyes, a cop literally like barricaded in front of my job, taking his nightstick out, and he's like beating the floor right across the street from protesters, beating the floor, and he's like excited. And that's what saw for me. I was just like, and that's what it was enough for me. I said, okay, this is what I'm talking about. This is what, like, there's some people on this force that are actually like, they get joy out of this. Like, they get joy out of inflicting pain on us. And then it got to another point where, again, when I clocked out, came back, still was giving me a hard time the next day to come to work. And I'm just saying, they had me go do 6 loops around the whole entire building. They made me go from one side to the other side, to the other side, to the other side. And when they finally let me through, I still remember when this female cop said, she told me, she's like, I'm gonna ask you again, are you with us or are you against us? And I told her, and this is a different cop, and I told her, I can't answer that question for you, I'm sorry. And she's like, all right, I'm gonna let this slide, but if you don't let me ever catch you over here ever again. Now, mind you, this is what a cop I've never seen before is saying this to me. And I'm just trying to go to work. You're telling me that I can't come around my work entrance ever again. Don't ever come over there again. And that's when I knew that it solidified it for me, that it really is a us versus them. They have literally, they don't even care about us as like regular. If you're just a regular worker just trying to go to work make your money, go home to your family. They just see you just like the rest. They see any of us that is out here being falsely accused or racially profiled. They just see us all the same. That whatever we're out here in the street, we clip. If they try to stop you and press you on something, they feel that they could get away with it because deep down they probably feel that you deserve it. So from that point on, it's like that was just from the most recent thing that I had to deal with the police. It could even go back to even when I was even in high school, and I'm just with friends and we're all outside of our school during our free period, and cops just come out and pull up on us. All of us, we're kids, and they pulling up on us, telling us, oh, like trying to check our IDs, like have us pinned up against the wall, like they're about to nab us right in front of our high school. Like this is crazy. And like if it wasn't for our guidance counselor coming out and like saving us at this point, we probably would have all been casted off right there, just because because we're kids, and they thinking that we're just like grown adults that they can do this to. We were kids. We were kids at this time when that happened. There's some like the run-ins I've had, I've been maced before by police. I've been maced before. It's being maced is never a good feeling. It's just these situations. It's like when it talks about they need proper training. They do need proper training, but the training that they need is not training that can only take about 6 months. They need training. They need a whole entire training session, but that needs to last them at least 2 years. It makes no sense where when you look at the law enforcement, so to speak, you have attorneys that have to go to school. They're in school for practically 8 years learning the law. Whereas for a police officer here in America, a cop in America, they take about less than 6 months to just go through an academy and go on the street, and they're basically going, they're sworn protectors of peace. That doesn't make any sense to me. It's like, so when I hear the term, we always talk about, defunding the police. If you want to defund the police, you can. But in order for you to defund this police, you can't defund the police thinking that this current regime is going to be better. You have to just do away with it completely and rebuild it from the ground up. Right. Literally, at this point, police officers really, to me, should have always been social workers with guns. But now we've given them so much power that they literally think they can just do whatever they want, get away with what they want. And if it wasn't for these riots, it wasn't for us, this uprising the way it's going right now, if it wasn't for this, they would have probably still gotten away with everything. They still would get away with it, and they would just laugh because they have a whole lawsuit ready for them to handle anything that goes against them, to handle in civil court, because they already know, like, that 9 times out of 10 they're not gonna go on get fired. They're not gonna lose their job. Most they'll do is either go on civil. They'll go on administrative leave, or they'll just go retire, get their pension, and be able to just go and get another job somewhere else. It's a system that they know they've pretty much maneuvered through for so long that they just realize that, we really can get away with what we want. And it's like, that's why they have like this whole thing, this blue wall of silence for them. And it's just so crazy. But going back to that, I just feel after that brief stint that happened with my job, I haven't even like set foot back at my job since. I'm just over it. I'm over it because once to see that at my grown age, for them to like do that with me and trying to like make me sit there and think that I got to pick sides with them, I was just like, yeah, enough. I've had enough of that. I've had enough of dealing with that.
Right. Wow. So to start, I'm also, and Brandon, I'm sorry, bro, that you've had to go through that. Like that literally like pains me. But excuse me. I have been lucky enough to not, have to deal with uh law enforcement to that extent. I will say this: high school, had to be 2003, 2004, maybe. With my high school, we had half a days every Wednesday. So a friend of mine went to the movies, We were in Long Island City. We went to Kaufman and Astoria. It wasn't far. We went and saw Doom. I'll never forget it. We went and saw Doom. Watched The Rock say fuck like 400 times. um, and on the walk back to Queensbridge, which max 20, 30 minutes, we got stopped. Now, he was used to it. I wasn't. I grew up in a very, I won't say privileged, but I definitely grew up in a very good neighborhood. Called Cambria Heights, very, very deep in Queens. It's like literally I could have walked to Long Island. That's how far out in Queens I was. Not that far from Jamaica, Queens, if y'all don't know, 50 Cent. Like I grew up right Linden Boulevard, if you know Tribe Called Quest, they rep Linden Bully, St. Albans. That's that kind of like that area where that hip hop in New York really, grew. But yeah, so they stopped us and cop puts me on the wall. Doesn't not super violently, but checks, everything. There were three cops. The one came to me, the two were with the other one, where, asking us where were we, what we're doing. Now at that point, my friend was like, listen, just let me talk to them, this, that, and the third. And I let him, because once again, I wasn't used to that type of situation. Um, and I mean, we walked away, thank God. And I'll never forget it. My friend told me, he was like, yeah, man, it seemed like you had the asshole cop. I usually get the asshole cop. You got the asshole cop today. I was like, oh, okay. Um, that was interesting. But this is, um, I'll say this, as a black man in America, up until I'll say maybe 4 years ago, I was never really afraid. Um, I have family and friends and friends of family and martial arts brothers and sisters that are in law enforcement, that are in the military. Um, Hence why I can never ever just sit here and say, F the cops or whatever, because I'd be a hypocrite. Um, so I know for a fact that they're good people, good cops. Now, I said it earlier where it really just takes a bad day. That's really it. Um, and recently I've been talking to a lot of people about it. And I've been telling them that I refuse to live in fear, but that doesn't mean I'm afraid. And that has stuck with me ever since I said it. Now, one of the differences between me and my co-host is that I'm a father. I have a 5-year-old girl whom I love dearly. Anybody who knows me knows that my daughter's my world. So it's already been tough with coronavirus and me not being able to see her. I live in New Jersey. She lives up in Brooklyn. But I'm in deep Jersey. It's like South Jersey. So I would take the bus up, Greyhound, and go get her and all of that. But it's been really hard. And then with all of this, it's even tougher because now, not only do I have to now literally, I have to literally turn, keep my head on a swivel, which as a human, honestly, you kind of have to do anyway, but it's so much worse. Um, so for me, it's, and I'm not saying we all have somebody who cares about us. Um, but for me to think about, my mother, anytime I have to drive to work or anything really, anytime I have to leave the house, she has to worry she's going to be able to talk to her son. Um, I don't want my daughter to worry if she's going to have to if she's going to be able to talk to her father again. And the situation with Breonna Taylor really gets to me because if anything happened to my daughter the way that happened to Brianna, I couldn't tell you what I would do because I don't know, but it would be to that extreme. But what terrifies me is my daughter not growing up with her father. Especially considering it's bad enough that there's enough children without their moms or dads or, you know, whatever the case may be. Or it has to deal with, you know, horrible parents or whatever. That's what scares me. Um, there's just way too much. There's way too much pain for people to be separated. And as I understand that, you know, racism has been around, be it, you know, of different races or of the same race. Because I know colored folk, and yes, I said colored, but I know colored folk who don't like other colored folk. Now, I'm one to talk as much trash as the next person about everybody, about everything. But, you know, and I'll say, I might joke around, oh, people suck, this, that, and the third. But I understand that at individuals, they have minds, they can make their own choices, make their own decisions. This is one of those times where we all need to be on the same page. Because if we're not, things will continue to get worse. Things will continue to break down. Things will continue to burn down. All pun intended. You know, I'm tired. You know, I broke down not too long ago, maybe last week, I want to say, because I haven't seen my kid. And because I have to worry about anytime I leave my girlfriend's house, is she going to hear from me by the time I get to work? Is my mom going to hear from me later that day? Is my daughter going to hear from me later that day? This is probably one of the most scariest times in my life. And the only thing that's keeping me going is love. Is love and a drive to succeed. And we all need that right now, especially people of color. Not too long ago, I read a post that a friend of mine put up, and it had all the, well, I don't want to say all because I'm pretty sure there's a lot we don't know about, but it had many, 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 many names on it. And it was many people of color who was killed by police brutality. And I sat there and I counted those names. It was over 90 names. That got to me. To think that 90 of my brothers and sisters, of people of the same race, people whose parents might have had, whose grandparents or great grandparents might have had to deal with the same things that mine did. To see them shot and killed or abused or it's tiring. It's just tiring. It's draining on the soul. And I'm over it, just like we all are. Now, I will say this. To people who support anything that's happening, that majority of us might see as a negative, and that is the killing of Black people, of minorities. That is the killing of white people, senselessly. The killing of people, period. For no reason. It needs to stop. And it needs to stop now. We have decided to do this podcast because this is something that we love. We are all friends. And this is something, and people deserve to have their voices heard. I thought that I felt that this was the best platform to speak my mind, for all of us to speak our minds. And please, I welcome anyone to have an open forum about it. Anyone and everyone. And that's whether, and I understand a lot of people, and y'all might not like this, but I understand that there are a lot of people that are for Trump, and I'm not knocking you. That's your belief. That's fine. I have personal friends. I have friends, like real friends, who support Trump. But you know what? They're not racist. They're not assholes. They give a damn about me and my daughter. And those are the people who I'm talking to. This needs to change. The things that have been said are unacceptable. And it's not fair. We, as the human race, there will always be negativity in the world, always, because you can't have light without dark. You can't. So there will always be negativity, but us as the human race, we need to come together. And we really need to show the people who remain negative or whose views we find incorrect, especially when it comes to the killings of our brothers and sisters, or like that post of the guy kneeling on his friend or whatever, on his neck to show that, oh, this doesn't do anything. Oh, you're being nice though. You're being real nice to your friend. If that was me, what would you do? We need to come together as a people and end this. Because there will be nothing good will happen if this keeps going on. There will be more rioting, there will be more looting. And I'm not promoting that by any means, but I understand when people are fed up, things get extreme. Oh, excuse me.
If I could interject and
No, please.
just give like my closing thoughts. Number one, thank you, all three of you gentlemen, who I consider my brothers. Thank you for sharing your stories today. Thank you for sharing, your pain and things that have been bothering you. I think this is, even though we're doing this podcast normally with a totally different focus, we like to focus on wrestling. We like to have fun with each other and stuff like that. This is an incredibly heavy subject, and it's an incredibly taxing subject, because it's something that affects us directly every single day. And it's something that could affect us directly. Three of the four gentlemen here haven't had violent confrontations or potentially violent confrontations with police officers, but it could be us. That's something that's always in the back of our mind. With that said, I just wanted to add on my belief, and I think a lot of people out there share my belief, is I'm just tired of those who kind of want to deflect from the pain that we feel when we explain it, and this is directed towards the people who do say like things like all lives matter and stuff like that, which is a beautiful thought in theory. Every human life on this earth, every life period on this earth is a precious life and should be respected. The reality of the situation is that it isn't. There are people out there who believe because they are of a different race that they are more superior than other people. Hence why I opened my previous statement with saying, you know, I'm not saying that Black Lives Matter means my life as a Black man matters more than yours, because by the definition of racism, believing that you are superior based on your race, that's not what I'm saying to you as an African American man, as a Black man. That's not what I'm saying to you. I don't believe that I am superior than you or deserve more than you in any way, shape, or form because of my race. I'm just it gets maddening and it gets tiring to hear those deflections, you know, like, well, why does this happen in the Black community and stuff like this? Like, you'll hear black on black crime brought up constantly. That's not a justification for police officers to do some of the things that they do to minorities unlawfully. You know, that's not a justification in any way, shape, or form. I don't care how much crime is in Black communities, in which I also want to point this out. Being a person who does have a concentration in a background in sociology, I have a BA in sociology, not that I'm sounding like I'm tooting my own horn, but I have an MSW. You know, I've studied race and conflict within race extensively. Crime is an intraracial thing. There's just as much white on white crime, Hispanic on Hispanic crime, Asian on Asian crime, Black on Black crime. Crime is a proximity thing, you know. When you live with people, you are more likely to live with people in an area which you are the same race of. Hence why the people you are more likely to commit crimes against are usually the same race as you. With that said, that is no excuse for the police to beat up and kill unlawfully Black and brown people. You know, people point out that the total of police crimes, you know, the crimes against police that have been by like people of color and they make up violent crime and stuff like that, that's working off of a small sample size in research. You're not comparing that to the entire population. For example, police happen to deal fatally with African Americans at a clip of 23%. Our population as Black people in America is only 13%. That's a rate of nearly 2 to 1. Totals do not explain rates, which is the likelihood of something happening in comparison to something else. Our population is small and we are almost being unlawfully exterminated by police at a clip of 2 to 1. You know, it just gets really tiring of all the deflections. You know, hearing a different point of view and trying to see and understand that different point of view and potentially changing your mind because of that point of view does not make you a hypocrite. You know, you're seeing something and you are understanding something from a different lens. You may not understand and be able to firsthand feel the pain that I go through sometimes because of my problems, but you can understand and you can empathize with it. Empathy is going to be a big thing going forward to understand some of the problems that people go through in the world. Education is going to be a big thing going forward. And what is happening now, we're getting legislation from, you know, police departments that no longer allow records of misconduct to be sealed. It's now public record. You know, you can actively know who you're dealing with now as an officer on a daily basis. It just gets very tiring and very maddening to hear some people go like, you know, well, you know, if you guys didn't do this, you know, then police wouldn't beat up on you and stuff like that, you know, and all lives matter. I would dare, like, the next person I see say all lives matter on Facebook, I'm going to wait for their birthday and I'm going to tell them all birthdays matter. You sound how stupid that sounds? Like, for me to tell you on your birthday that, well, all other birthdays matter. What was so special about your birthday? You know, think about it. Just understand and hear what we're trying to say. We're not doing this as a personal attack in any way, shape, or form. I'm pretty sure a lot of you have good relatives out there, but that's not the focus of what this is. You know, your good cop friends and your good cop relatives, I hope they continue to be those things, but that's not what's being focused on here. We're not focusing on the good cops. We're trying to get rid of the bad ones. You know?
I gotta agree with that, all of that, Christian. You know, it is crazy to see when so many people come online and they keep talking about, you know, all lives matter, or they'll always deflect with the Black on Black crime situations, which, and exactly as you say, you know, crime is crime. It happens no matter what. It happens anywhere. Crime is inevitable. Like, that, which goes back to what I said before when it comes to, like, you know, defunding the police, like getting rid of them, starting from the ground up. People automatically think when you say that you mean abolish the police completely and that we're going to be just a lawless state. We're all going to be a lawless country with no authority figures at all. No, that's not true. You still could have the police will still be there. They'll just be less powerful as they are now. I'll give infrastructure. The NYPD is literally gets about almost close to $6 billion every year annually. They get almost $6 billion in funds every year, plus an added extra 11 million, plus an extra 11 million. So actually, not even 11 million, 11 billion. So actually, that already tells you how much more money they get as is. So when we keep screaming like we need them to like take all this money and power away from them, it's because we have put everything that goes on to our everyday lives, we put it onto the police. If we have a missing person, we go to the police. If we have somebody that's hurt, when you call 911, who ends up usually coming first regardless? The police. And it shouldn't be. When there's an issue of a domestic issue, or argument between yourself and your significant other, the police are called. If something's going on in school, who's called? The police. Besides school safety, the police are end up being called as well. So it's just like, yo, we keep calling the police for everything when they're not even supposed. If there's a homeless person on the street, you call the police. You're not supposed to call the police for all of these problems. They're not supposed to be taking care of all these problems that they see. The only thing they really need to worry about is if you really are trying to rob a bank or you're really trying to kill somebody. That's when you call the police to come and try to save the day. But you shouldn't for all of these things. Now, and overall, when we talk about again, like with this episode, we're trying to speak on what's happening with everything with police brutality, but we're still trying to focus on the things like we're trying to just make it serious about what Black Lives Matter. We also got to have that conversation and talk to ones within ourselves in our own community, especially us as we know it's not us as Black men, but you need to speak to we need to speak to these other Black men. When we're saying that Black Lives Matter, it's not just us that matter, just as us like getting killed in the street, Black Lives Matter, or like the ones like Breonna Taylor. Their lives matter as well, because even though her life matters just as much as George Floyd's life matters, because she's not getting the same amount of traction and the same amount of focus and voice as George Floyd was. George Floyd was over here, has had a GoFundMe of over 14 million because of this. It should be the same thing for even Breonna Taylor. And honestly, we could also give another rest in peace to Olatoyin Selah, aka Toyin. She was another Black Lives Matter activist that was just recently found killed after she openly went on social media and revealed that the person she was confiding in, that's supposed to be a man of God, turned out to be another assaulter, because she had spoke about how she was assaulted before, and the same person that was supposed to be a man of God, a priest, ended up doing the same thing that she spoke to him about, assaulting her. And then she was found days later. She was missing, and then she was found days later dead in Florida. And it just so happened that the man that did actually cause harm to her was a Black man. That's the thing that actually hurts, is that yes, Black Lives Matter. We want to be seen as equal. We want to be seen as human. We want to be seen that we need to be here just as much as any other counterpart in this country. But we also have dropped the ball. We really have dropped the ball on really protecting our women. We literally have dropped the ball completely on protecting our Black women. When we say this and we say, we need to protect our Black women, the same as you want to protect your daughter, it has to be more than just words. That has to be something that's like a mantra inside your spirit. And that should be for everybody. Because I was on my friend's page the other day, and she even posted up, a scenario, not even a scenario, she just opened up a forum to ask like for any Black women to say like, when have you ever felt safe around Black men? And then seeing the stories of how many women actually did not feel safe around us, that's soul crushing. Now I know it's not basically meaning me, because I know nobody's gonna feel unsafe around me, but it's just to see that so many of our other brothers have dropped the ball, that now we're literally sitting here. We're not only fighting systemic oppression, we're fighting racism from the police. We're also fighting racism from every other race outside of ours. But we also still have to fight this internal struggle within ourselves.
Right.
Some of us we're not able to.
Brandon, sorry to cut you off real quick. Yeah. Just something very small to add on. It's not only those things that you mentioned, but it's the ignorance of our own people.
Mhm.
that's, it's soul crushing,
Yeah, and it's like just to see this, it's just like, and it baffles your mind because you would think, yo, a lot of us as black men, you come from black women. Your mother is majority of you guys,
Yeah.
majority of men, their mothers are black women.
Or
So
colored, period.
or colored period. So where has this hate, this internal rage and hate
Mhm.
where has this come that you feel that you need to go and do harm to the very same one that always will sit there and say how much they love you, how much they will march for you? Because if God forbid, if you go or any of us go, who's the ones that's on the front lines? It's black women. The ones that are always on the front lines marching, because I've seen it for myself. It's black women, it's black trans women, black, of course, black LGBTQ people. They're always at the forefront, and us as a whole, as black men, we never give them the same respect that they give us, that they try to give us the same love experience. We don't give it to them because I think at the same time, we try to feel like we need to have some type of control of oppression over them. And it's just, and it's like, we really shouldn't even be trying to play. And when they voicing their opinion, their struggles about it, some black men always want to play oppression Olympics. And I feel like that's something that we need to like stop doing right there and then. We got to stop playing oppression Olympics with each other. Like, because at the end of the day, we're all black. The white folks, all those white folks, everybody outside of this, the police, the government, military, they just see this. They don't care what you are. All they see is you're black. So they always gonna bunch us all together. So we need to just stand together. Otherwise, we're always gonna fail on this.
Agreed.
Thank you for that gem too, brother. You're absolutely right.
For sure.
Always.
Good, Troy.
Preach, my brother, preach. Closing statements from me. I think y'all hit everything on the head. There's nothing much for me to say. But I go back to an earlier point on a previous episode where I always say, read the room. I need people to understand that this is not a time, especially for us as Black people, us as people of color, to be discriminating against one another for being a different, being a different sexuality, being a different gender. You know, you may protest and I may not protest. That doesn't mean that we should be against each other. Everybody protests and vents in different ways. So your anger might be shown in protest and you're outside, venting your frustrations. I could be home strategizing, internalizing what is going on, and I could be doing something in secret as well. I heavily suggest that if you're watching this, whether you are a person of color, whether you are black, whether you are white, it doesn't matter what race, creed, religion, whatever you come from. It does not matter what you are. Please go watch Dave Chappelle's 846 special. To see a man who we've all ran to for comedic relief, to see him damn near break down and pour his heart out and his anger into this 27-minute special, and to have him, vocally, show his frustrations for things that have been going on around him, for him to say that, oh, as a celebrity, we shouldn't, you know what? And he's completely right. We should not be looking towards celebrities as the beacons of hope for something that we are doing and we are walking outside and we are doing ourselves. Because at the end of the day, I will always say that celebrities and all these famous people are still human beings at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. They are just like us. They are normal people. We should not put any type of spotlight or shine on somebody or expect them to say something, to benefit us. No. If I remember correctly, the quote goes, change begins with us. Change begins inside of all of us, right? So I feel that we as a people should be working together with each other. When I'm hearing stuff about, the Toyin situation and a black man, going and doing all this heinous stuff, even to see, another black man trying to abduct a 4-year-old just recently as well. It's sickening to me.
Mm.
It is sickening to me that people cannot read the room and say, this is not the time. This is not the time for this. But I will also not fault these men entirely because these people are not mentally there. There are plenty black people, whether it is man, woman, transgender person, does not matter whom it is. There are a lot of very mentally challenged people out on these streets, and their voices are not heard as well. So for you to tell me that cops are going around and they see somebody, a non-person of color, and they're spitting at them, they're cursing at them. Oh, I have a PhD. You can't do shit to me. As in a video that I seen the other day with a mentally challenged white lady with a PhD who was talking to these cops like dirt. To tell me that they can't read the room and treat us in the same fashion and get us help. You mean to tell me that Rashard Brooks was woken up out of his sleep in a parking lot and he's coming out of his car by the trunk answering your questions, and now you're going to basically point guns at him and try to arrest him after he's getting you all the information that you need? Yes, he took a taser. Yes, he pointed a taser at you. But how many other cases in the news have you seen uh, one of the civilians have taken their taser or taken their weapon and pointed it at them or tried to be aggressive with them? Do you ever see them get shot in the back? Do you ever see them staring down the barrel of a gun and getting killed? No, you don't see that. You don't see that. People need to realize and read the room, as I always will say, from this day, from in my past to my present to my future. People need to read the room. There's no possible way you're telling me that my life as a black person, my life as a black man, my life as a black woman, my life as a black trans person, you you're telling me that our life does not matter more than anybody else, or even as equally as anybody else? It's pure garbage. But for my closing statement, I will say that read the room,
Right.
love each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sorry,
No,
Mr.
no,
Lou,
no, no. Go, please.
uh, yes, read the room, love each other, keep everybody close. It doesn't matter if you meet this person for 2 seconds, doesn't even matter if you know them for two lifetimes over. Love everybody you meet. Make sure you tell, especially your black people, your fellow black people, that you love them. You don't know what anybody's going through at any single moment of the day. Be that bright light in somebody's life. We are all going through different things. We are all from different walks of life. And I please and I urgently please and beg everybody that watches this, if you haven't learned something from what we're saying to you tonight, if you haven't learned from what's going on in the news, if you haven't learned from your friends or your supposed friends that you say you have that are black or people of color, from what is going on, you're not reading the room. So please listen to everybody, and spread that love to everybody. Because this time, what's going on right now shouldn't have been going on at all. It shouldn't exist.
Yeah. There's just a couple things I want to read to close this episode out. Um, it's a number of quotes that I think are very impactful, especially for the things that are going on now. Excuse me, man. uh, Nelson Mandela said, when a man is denied the right to live the life he believes in, he has no choice but to become an outlaw. That statement in itself, to me is directly, is directly related to all the rioting and the looting. We as a people have been belittled for so long, and I think what bothers me so much is that like like the young lady with the PhD, like that paper means nothing when it comes to guns, sadly. So, we as a whole really need to, I really, I understand the looting and the rioting has calmed down. Once again, I don't necessarily agree with that, but I understand the extreme actions. Another quote is, he who fears he will suffer already suffers because he fears. And I think that relates to, specifically, it relates to Black people. Once again, I have said that I refuse to live in fear. That doesn't mean I am not afraid. And I think because I refuse to live in fear, that gives me the will and the drive to keep pushing forward. And I know, and at least from that aspect, I know I can speak for all four of us. And the very last one is, most people do not listen with the intent to understand. They listen with the intent to reply. And that statement, at least as of right now, I'm going to direct this directly to our podcast. I don't want you guys to. I don't want you guys to reply. I would love it. Don't get me wrong, but I repeat, I need y'all to listen. I am 32. I will be 33 in September. Me and my co-host and I are all around the same age. I call it the Power Rangers era because that's the era we grew up with. But we all said a lot of things, and I do believe in my heart that we all feel the same way. We all have the four of us have the same views on these situations. Love is very hard to come by, and it shouldn't, not by any means. Love should come naturally. Love is the thing that keeps people together, be it relationships, friends, or family. And that is something we do not have right now. And I think if you have a faith, believe that it will get you through. Believe that change will come. If you just believe in a higher power, believe that the higher power will get you through. But us as a people, and right now I am specifically speaking to Black people. We have to stop tearing each other down. Jokes are one thing. I don't mind jokes. It's what I grew up with. My family, all we do is joke because that's my family. That's how we are. We joke about everything. But we have to stop tearing each other down. Black men, Black women, Black children. We have to stop tearing each other down. To everyone else, To everyone else, I need y'all to stand by us. If you care, I don't care if you vote for Trump. I don't care how you feel about the brother down the street. If you care about me, I need you to stand by me. If you care about any of us, I need you to stand by us. Because excuse me. I'm sorry. Because without us standing together, there can be no change. So we have to stand together. Two of my best friends in the entire world are white. And I mean, as white as they come. But they stand by me because they know me, because they know my morals. They know that I'll work my ass off for whatever I want, when I want it. We all procrastinate, we all bullshit. It's life. This is not that time. We have to stay together. We have to remember that we are all living on this planet together. So my very last statement is that I hope and pray that, you know, I wish I could say a month, 2 months. No. Within the next 5 years, I really hope there's a newfound respect for all people, not just Black people, everyone. I'm sorry, I'll leave y'all with this quote. I heard this, and my boss, whom I love, she's a little white lady, she knows. one of the best bosses I've ever had in my life. She's looked out for me for so long. And she was one of the people that said all lives matter, but it wasn't necessarily that Black lives didn't matter. That's just how she felt. But she heard this quote and it clicked for her. So I'm going to repeat it and hopefully it clicks for other people. If there's a house burning on a street and the fire department comes and they spray down all the houses, that is the equivalent to all lives matter. That burning house is the house you have to take care of. And currently, that's Black lives. That's the 4 of us. That's all our Black brothers and sisters on our page. And I'm not singling anyone out of any race, because that's not what this is about. This is my daughter. This is my mother. These are my cousins. These are my uncles. My aunts, my sister. We have to stand together. We have to. That is the only way that we are going to get through this. Please. And I don't beg often. I am begging, pleading for everyone to stay together, because I don't want my daughter and the next generation to grow up in a society where they have to be fearful of their life every single day. Gentlemen, Instagrams and socials. I guess I'll start with mine. Mr. Marvel 87 on Instagram and Twitter. The Council of Commentary, as you all know by now, is on all social media. Yeah, Troy.
Reach out to the council. I run all the council social medias. It is the Council of Commentary, exactly how I said it on Instagram. CO Commentary on Twitter. And please, I advise everybody, if you enjoyed anything that we said tonight, if you have any sliver of interest in what we do and what we're about, please join our Facebook group. Just look on Google. We are a very public Facebook group. Look for the Council of Commentary. It will take you right to our page. It'll take you right to our page. Join in, have fun with us. And even though this is a very serious time, it's a safe place for everyone. Don't feel that, you'll be chastised when you come there. Everybody is welcome.
Oh, and just for a heads up, I'm sorry, folks, but I just want to make sure this is clear. On our Twitter page, it is at capital C, capital O, capital C, and then the rest of the word commentary. All right, so please make sure you see that. I just wanted to make sure y'all get that. Brandon.
As always, as like they said, follow the Council Commentary page, join our Facebook group where we, like I said, we're joining people. Please join. We're always just taking new members. Of course, my Instagram is the same thing, Forever Thiefing. Just be able to look it up. Want to chat? I'm always available. We're good for dialogue. Like, always remember, coming to our domain, it is a safe space. Don't even though you're probably going through everything that's crazy right now in the world, always know it's a safe space in the group that we have here. Like, just be willing to just take it. And as another reminder, that's it. That's about it.
Christian.
Yeah, just to reiterate what the guys have been saying, follow us on Facebook. We have a group that's inclusive to everybody. We are a professional wrestling focused podcast, but, I think where we felt like the very strong need to have our voices heard and to use the platform that we have to echo some of the sentiments that some of our friends, our family, some of our loved ones, and other people in this world share the same sentiments. We just felt the need to echo it. You can follow me on Instagram. I am Jadoa Sapio on Instagram. That is JADORESAPIO. That is not easy to do, hence why I had to dance to try to get the rhythm to remember to spell that. You can also see me in the Council of Commentary Facebook group. More than likely, I will be the guy that is probably complaining about something about the current product. And I also love, not that I'm getting paid to do this, Voodoo Ranger IPA, 7%.
My God.
Good stuff.
Oh, see, I didn't know.
Excuse me, he's trying to.
Oh, you got one. I got the 9%.
No. See, y'all trying to get that sponsorship. Cut it out.
Trying to get monetized, man.
Nah, I'm with you.
Sponsor us.
I got the 9% at my fridge, brother.
Please, everyone, like, share, subscribe, do everything you possibly can to support. Please do remember, and this is going to go long. Please do remember that we do love all. We do care. This isn't about excluding any particular race or particular person. This is just 4 young men speaking their minds. And, like I said, we care. So once again, thank you. We appreciate you so much for listening, because we know you don't have to. Thank you. And once again, this is the Four Corners of Commentary.
Throw 'em up.
Thank y'all and have a good night.